In Palestine, at least 8 people were killed after a new Israeli attack on residential areas in Rafah, Gaza Strip. In Venezuela, the consultation, debate and action of the so-called 7 transformations concluded with multiple observations and proposals from the People's Power. And on Monday in Senegal, President Macky Sall announced he will request lawmakers to consider passing a general amnesty to free political protesters arrested since 2021. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, at least 8 people were killed after a new Israeli attack on residential areas in Rafah, Gaza Strip. The southern city has again been targeted by Israeli airstrikes, this time hitting residential areas in order to evacuate civilians from the city. In the aftermath of the bombardments, a large number of children and women were injured and were rescued from the rubble. The Palestinian Health Ministry stated that the number of dead since October 7th has risen to 29,410, while the number of wounded has reached at least 69,465.
I was eating after having fasted. I was about to finish eating, and the ceiling fell on my head. My children were close to me. Thank God we got out alive.
Another day of intense Israeli attacks against the Gaza Strip. The city of Rafah was supposed to be a safe zone, but that's not the case. A five-story building where a whole family lived was destroyed by an Israeli airstrike. Let's see the details in the following report by our correspondent Nur Horasan.
Rafah city, which is supposed to be a green area here in Gaza, where more than 1.2 displaced Palestinians came to take shelter. This is what is happening in Rafah. Basically, Palestinians are getting killed in some of the latest Israeli attacks on Rafah. And here we are just next to the Azatma family home, where the Israeli warplanes launched a strike attacking this 5 floors home. Eyewitnesses and residents of this home are talking about more than 100 people who are inside these apartments, and we actually saw paramedics evacuate the bodies of many of them. Nur Harazin, teleSUR, Gaza.
In Netherlands, the International Court of Justice concluded its public proceedings in regard to the legal consequences of Israel's policies and practices in the occupied Palestinian territories, including Jerusalem. The 6-day-long sessions have now concluded and the court retreated for deliberation. There is no certain time limit to prepare the pronouncement, with some experts expecting it to be at the end of the year. In Monday's hearing, Zambia and Fiji resembled earlier arguments of the United States and United Kingdom, calling the court to decline providing the opinion. Turkey, Spain and the Maldives, meanwhile, condemned Israel's occupation and demanded an end to the impunity the country enjoys before the international law. Organizations like League of Arab States, Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the African Union conceded that Israel must end the last oppressive expansionist apartheid settled colonial occupation still standing in the 21st century. Likewise, the representatives assured that Israel must dismantle the discriminatory regime. Palestinians only want justice, equality, dignity, and their long-deserved independence, they concluded. Human Rights Watch said Monday that the Israeli government has failed to comply with at least one measure in the legally binding order from the International Court of Justice in South Africa's genocide case. On January 24th, the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to take immediate and effective measures to enable the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian aid to Gaza and to report back on its compliance within a month. However, 30 days after Israel continues to obstruct the provision of basic services and the entry and distribution of fuel and life-saving aid in Gaza. According to the United Nations Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, fewer trucks have entered Gaza and fewer aid missions have been permitted to reach the northern part of the region in the several weeks since the ruling that in the weeks preceding it. In Palestine, the Jordanian army carried out the largest aid landing operation on the Gaza coast. The Jordanian army revealed through an official statement that the operation involved 4 C-130 planes, one of which belonged to the French armed forces, and that the aid included relief items and foodstuffs. The army stressed that the operation was mainly aimed at delivering aid directly to the population. Jordanian army has so far carried out 16 airdrops, with previous landing earmarked for the Jordanian Field Hospital and one for about 800 people trapped inside the St. Porphyrius Church in the Zaytun neighborhood east of Gaza. The army stated that it will continue to send aid through the Al Arish International Airport in Egypt. A group of labor union and social movement activists have blocked off the road in front of the U.S. consulate in Recife to demand an end to the U.S. government's support for Israel genocide in Gaza. Our correspondent Brian Meyer has more details.
I'm standing in front of the United States consulate in Recife, Brazil, where hundreds of members of labor unions represented by the CUT Labor Union Federation, social movements like the MST, UNI, the National Unified Black Movement, the National Students Union have gathered to demand an end to the U.S. support of the genocide that's taking place against the people of Palestine and U.S. support for the Israeli government. The Brazilian government's not backing down. They're making it very clear that criticizing the Israeli government justly for a genocide that's underway is not anti-Semitism at all. In fact, to the contrary, there's many Jews in Brazil who are showing their support for the Brazilian government right now, and the people are on the streets across the country demanding an end to this genocide.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Venezuela, the consultation, debate and action of the so-called 7 transformations concluded with multiple observations and proposals from the People's Power. The debate that began on January 18th counted with the participation of more than 60,000 community assemblies in the design of recovery and prosperity policies for the 2030. The closing ceremony in the state of Miranda was attended by the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who emphasized that the dialogue set the route for the recovery of Venezuela. Rodriguez highlighted the importance of advancing towards the nation's technological, scientific, cultural, and economic independence. She also reiterated that Venezuela will never again be dominated by any imperial power and is now on its way to becoming a member of the BRICS.
They're the BRICS. Venezuela's on the road with the BRICS, who are in the vanguard of the transformation and change towards a different world, towards a world that respects international law. And above all, Venezuela will never submit to any imperial power. It is marked in our history. We inherited from Bolivar, from our heroes, from our heroines, to never submit ourselves to any power.
The Peruvian Congress Subcommittee of Constitutional Accusations approves to submit to the legislative body the dismissal and disqualification for 10 years of the magistrates of the National Board of Justice, JNJ. The decision was taken with 14 votes in favor from the ultra-conservative parties. The motion is expected to be debated and subjected to a vote by the Congress Permanent Commission next week and will also be submitted to the full Congress approval after the members of the National Justice Board exercises its right of defense. The Plurinational Unity Movement Pachakutik ratified Leonidas Issa, President of the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities in Ecuador, as presidential pre-candidate for the February 2025 elections. The endorsement was confirmed during the Sierra Regional Convention of the movement held over the weekend in the city of Guaranda, province of Bolívar, central Ecuador. Previously, Issa had received the support of the organization at the Coast Regional Convention held a week before in Guayaquil province of Guayas. During the activity in Guaranda, Issa made a call for unity and urged to achieve a broad consensus of all leftists to win in the 2025 elections. In Brazil, expert studies on critical transitions in the Amazon forest system estimate that almost half of it could disappear by 2050. According to the published materials, the potential alterations depend on 5 factors caused directly or indirectly by climate change. It was also stated that deforestation and degradation levels have so far exceeded the 10% safety thresholds. As for the reduction of precipitations, it was established that it is not possible to exceed the deficit of 450 millimeters annually in dry season periods. Scientists explain that as the largest continuous tropical forest on the planet, what happens in the Amazon has and will have repercussions on a global scale due to its role as a climate regulator. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The Hungarian parliament voted to ratify Sweden's NATO membership, ending more than 18 months of delays that have frustrated the alliance as it seeks to expand its response to Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. Monday's vote passed by 188 deputies in favor and 6 against, ended months of wrangling among Hungary's allies to convince its government to lift its blockade on Sweden's membership. Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government submitted protocols to approve Sweden's NATO membership in July 2022, but the issue had stalled in Parliament because of opposition from ruling party lawmakers. Unanimous support from all NATO members is required to admit new countries, and Hungary is the last of the alliance's 31 members to give its backing, as Turkey ratified the bid last month. In Belgium, some 150 tractors partially blocked on Monday the capital's central road, Rue de la Loire, and the European quarter, where a meeting of European Union agricultural ministers is scheduled to take place. Under the slogan, Europe Wake Up, our farms are your lunch, protect the farmers, the mobilized sector carry out road blockades around the Euro Room of the European Union Council residence, where the meeting of European agriculture ministers is being held. These mobilizations were repressed by police officers who used water cannons to disperse the crowd. The farmers are protesting against the fall in their incomes, environmental regulations, administrative overload of free trade agreements, such as the one still to be concluded between the European Union and Mercosur. Also in Spain, farmers from all over the country gathered with their tractors in front of the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food in Madrid. Under the slogan, "The countryside demands support, respect and recognition," the sector is demanding significant changes in policies and regulations that affect its daily activity. One of the main concerns of farmers is the need for reforms in the agri-food chain law, which regulates commercial relations between producers, industry and distribution. On Monday, Senegal's President Macky Sall announced he will request lawmakers to consider passing a general amnesty to free political protesters arrested since 2021. Sall made those statements during talks to set a new date for presidential polls he delayed this month. The president also assured he wanted to organize the presidential election by July, even though a widespread movement is calling for a vote before April 2nd, when his term in office expires. Several hundred opposition members have been arrested in Senegal since 2021 amid the power struggle between opposition leader Ousmane Sonko and the state. The talks were convened to bring an end to a political crisis that was precipitated by Sall calling off February 25th elections.
To this end, and in the spirit of national reconciliation, I will be submitting to the National Assembly this Wednesday, in the Council of Ministers, a bill for a general amnesty for acts relating to political demonstrations that took place between 2021 and 2024.
The Burundi government accused on Monday the country's main rebel group of attacking a bereaved family and killing 9 people, including a soldier. The attack took place on Sunday in the western region of Buringa, just north of the economic capital Bujumbura, at the border to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the Red Tabara rebel group has rare bases. The Burundi government said the rebels also ransacked an office of the ruling CNDD-FDD party and accused Rwanda of backing the rebels. The Red Tabara group is the most active of all the rebel outfits in Burundi and is estimated to have between 500 and 800 fighters. The group claimed the attack on X and said its forces had killed 6 soldiers, destroyed the CNDD-FDD party offices, and seized arms and ammunition.
They fired bullets as they entered the courtyard, and we ran in through this door. There were a lot of us. We were fighting to get in, and I was lucky to get in first. They followed us with bullets. I could only see bullets behind us.
The armed conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces has severely damaged the medical system throughout the country, causing the spread of several diseases. Due to the failure of the system of surveillance, prevention and control of infectious diseases, coupled with a large-scale movement of displaced people, infectious diseases such as cholera and dengue fever began to spread widely in Sudan since September last year. The Sudanese Health Ministry Haitham Mohamed Ibrahim reported that since last year, cases in the country have increased to the current figure of about 10,800 cases of cholera and 757,500 of dengue fever. Ibrahim also stated that due to the armed conflict, 70 to 80% of medical institutions are not providing services to the population. This situation is also attributed to the paralysis of water supply, drainage and garbage disposal systems, which has contributed to an increased rate of infection and the spread of the diseases. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.